asexual reproduction, there is one method called fragmentation. From the textbook, what you have to study is fragmentation. They have given one example, Hydra. And already early we have studied Hydra reproduces through budding. Yes, this is another way how Hydra reproduce, that is through fragmentation. Like we learned in 10th class Spirogyra, here we are learning about Hydra. So if the parent Hydra, this is parent Hydra, they get broken down into pieces like this, and each piece over time they will get regenerated. Actually it is like regeneration, but here Hydra is preferring it to be cut, not like regeneration. In regeneration it happens accidentally and they regenerate. So this cut pieces will grow up to become adult. So Hydra in your lesson reproduces either in the form of budding or in the form of fragmentation. Now coming to sexual reproduction. Now how is sexual reproduction different from asexual reproduction? What happens during sexual reproduction? Can anybody say? Children? Yes, good. So in sexual reproduction always two parents are involved. There will be a female parent that produce female gamete. Usually that gamete is called egg. And there will be a male parent. Male parent produce gamete. Usually they are called sperm, but in lower organisms it is called as anthrozoid, like that some terms are there. Now after these two parents produces their gamete, during the reproductive phase both these gametes will fuse together and they will form zygote. Now since the genes of egg is different, the genes of sperm is different, the genes present in the zygote will be different. Means zygote will show genetic variability. So this kind of variability you cannot see in asexual reproduction. So in sexual reproduction, organism shows genetic variability, and they also might be looking different. Like zygote will grow up to a baby who might look different from their parents, and that baby might look different from their sister brother. So that all comes due to genetic variability, and they will be morphologically also different. Morphologically means look wise also little difference will be there. Morphologically and genetically they might differ. Except in case of identical twins. Identical twins, they look morphologically similar, but genetically still they will be different. So that's about sexual reproduction. It involves two parents and gamete fusion will take place to form zygote, and the zygote shows genetic and morphological differences. So there are three phases in the life of a sexually reproducing organism. There are three phases. The first phase is called juvenile phase. In juvenile phase, the organism will grow. They are the growing phase. So in this diagram we can see this plant's case, this seed is germinating, its stem and leaf is growing in height. Then comes the next phase where they will reach their reproductive phase, where they will produce their gametes and sex organs. Now in case of plants it is flowers. So that would be the second phase, which is called reproductive phase. So in the reproductive phase what happens is their sex organs will develop. Now in case of the plants we can say stigma will become receptive, pollen grains will start to release, all these things happens in plants. Similarly, in case of human beings, we can see like that. Now this baby is there growing to child. This is infant. Now she is here in this stage. She is adolescent. Then comes the adulthood. So if you take a look at the human beings, this growing stage will be their juvenile phase. Now when they become adult, they will be called as they are in reproductive phase. Reproductive phase. Then the third phase, that is the last phase. The third phase is old age or senescence. Senescence means old age time. What happens is slowly and gradually your metabolism will decrease. Metabolism means whatever chemical reactions take place in your body, that will become less efficient. So metabolism reduces and you will start becoming aged. So the organs will not function as better like you were in adulthood. So in this picture, if you see, this is adulthood, this is also adult. Now I can take this as old or senescence, old. These are the three phases. Now in case of plants, you can see plants old age, you can see this is plants old age, where the leaves and all wither, dry, fall down. This was plants reproductive phase, where flowers and fruits are developing. So every sexually reproducing organism will undergo these three phases. One is juvenile phase, then there would be a reproductive phase, and the last is senescence phase. Phase in plants, we are going to describe the phases. But when we have to tell about phases, plants are all not same. Some plants are called annual plants. Annual plants means they grow, they flower, they die in 1 year itself. That is why it's called annual. Like annual exam means in that same year you will write exam, no? At the end, like that. So annual plants are also like that. They grow, they flower, they die in 1 year. Can you tell me an example of any such kind of plants? They grow, they flower, they will die in 1 year. Same year they will die. But you can reap its seeds and flowers and fruits that year. Next year you have to sow another. Can you give me any example of such a plant? Yes? Yes, Amrita? Yes, very good. Very good, Abhirami. Yeah, very good. Rice. Rice plant is like that. They grow, they flower, they die in the same year. So rice is an annual plant. So for annual plants, easily you can see the three phases. You can see for rice plant a juvenile phase, reproductive phase, and then last senescence. Now coming to the next type of plant, that is called biennial plant. Biennial plant means bi means two, ennial means two seasons actually. So that plant has got two seasons. First season they will grow. That means first year they will grow. Plant will grow. Leaf, stem, all the vegetative parts will grow. Leaf, stem, root, all this will grow. The second year they will produce flowers and reproduce. And after flowering and fruiting, they will die. So biennial means their life cycle is for 2 years. First season is to grow the vegetative parts. Second season is to flower. Do you remember or do you know any such kind of a plant who is biennial? Okay, it's okay. I will write the example. Carrot is a biennial plant. So during its first season, the carrot what we are eating is actually root. Then and they'll produce the stem, the leaves. This will happen in the first season. That is first year. After you sow it in the soil, okay? In the second year, what happens is that these plants will grow very big and they will start producing flowers. These flowers will later become seeds and you can store it to produce more carrots. So this is a flower. So this happens in case of biennial plants where there is first year only vegetative parts will grow, second year flowers will. So there are 2 seasons for them. That's why they are called biennial plants. Example, carrot. Now the third type of plant is perennial plants. So perennial means they grow for more than 2 years. They grow for more than 2 years. They'll grow for more than 2 years. 3 year, 4 year, 5 years and all they will grow. And during these years, they'll keep repeating all these phases. Juvenile phase, reproduction phase, senescent phase will keep repeating in their life. Do you remember any such kind of a perennial plant or tree who keeps flowering and fruiting every year, keeping on flowering and fruiting for about 3, 4, 5 years? Do you know any such plant or tree? Yes. Okay. Coconut. Then mango is also there. And the longest will be banyan tree. Now, banyan tree lives for many years. So, why we took up this lesson, this topic is to understand whether these 3 phases are applicable for all plants or not. It is difficult to be applicable. It is applicable in case of annual and biennial plants, but for perennial plants, it is difficult. Why? Because we don't have a definite juvenile reproduction death phase for perennial plants because many years they are living. So when is their juvenile? When is their reproduction? When is their senescence? You can't know that. So it is difficult to classify these 3 phases in case of perennial plants. Whereas annual plants and biennial plants, you can see these 3 phases clearly. So this is an annual plant, you see rice. Rice is there, it is growing, it is producing the seeds, it is an annual plant. After that it will die. So they show clear cut phases: juvenile, reproduction, senescence. Now about the biennial plant, carrot. See, this is carrots, first year is like this. So here you can see it has produced roots and they have got the stem also. Now in the next year, the remaining will come. See, these are the flowers. It will produce the flowers. Flowers will later become the seeds. Farmers can save it to reproduce more carrots. So these are called biennial plants. Biennial means they have got 2 seasons. The first season they produce the vegetative parts like roots and stem. Second season they will produce the flower. Flower is considered to be the reproducing part. Very good. Neem is one perennial. And this is what? Yes, mango. And this is? Yes, banyan. They are all perennial. Perennial means they live for more than 2 years. So since they live for more than 2 years, you cannot define clear cut where are the different stages. Because they keep producing, they keep living. So when is their juvenile reproducing senescent, we cannot make out. Whereas in case of annual plants, you can make out them. Perennial plants, it is difficult to make them out. Now there are some plants, they show unusual flowering phenomenon. Unusual. Unusual means again it is difficult to identify which is juvenile, which is reproduction, which is senescence. That is not able to, we cannot identify that. One such kind of plant is bamboo. So here you can see this is a picture where bamboo is flowering. Bamboo flowers after 50 to 100 years only. So for 50 to 100 years they can live like this with only stem part. After 50 to 100 years only they are flowering. So that is why it's called unusual flowering plants. And once they flower, they die. So if you see bamboo trees flowering, that means they are going to die next. So they won't flower every year. Only after 50 to 100 years they flower. Bamboo. Now similarly, there is another plant that shows like this unusual flowering phenomenon. And the name I have already written and kept here. It is called Strobilanthus kuntiana. Strobilanthus kuntiana. Write this. This is the Neelakurinji flower. It flowers after 12 years only. After 12 years it will take for it to flower. It takes 12 years for flowering. And once it flowers, it's so beautiful. It is seen along the hills of Munnar, Kerala, Karnataka areas. And it invites lots of tourists to see that. So animals they show correctly juvenile reproductive senescent phases that I showed you early in case of human beings. Now there are some terms used. When they reach the reproductive phase, when the animals reach the reproductive phase, if it is in case of non-primates, non-primates means who are not looking like human beings, that is cow, non-primate mammals. Mammals means they give birth to young ones and they feed mammary gland milk. They are called mammals. Those are non-primate mammals like cow, dog, tiger, cat. They are all non-primates. So they will undergo some changes. If it is female means they'll undergo some changes in their ovaries. So that will happen as a cycle. So this cyclical changes. So when they reach a reproductive age, they will undergo some cyclical changes. It's called cyclical because the changes repeats every season. You know, cows, dogs, cat and all, they are seasonal breeders. They are seasonal. During the seasons only they feel attracted towards the opposite sex. So that's why they are called seasonal breeders. And that time they will produce, dogs means they'll produce a puppy, cow means they'll produce calf, cat means they'll produce kitten. So what happens in their reproductive phases? There will be cyclical changes happening to their reproductive organs. That is ovaries, happening to ovaries, hormones, and ovaries duct is there, no tubes are there, no like in human beings it is called fallopian tube. So ovaries, hormones, the ducts are called accessory ducts. So there are cyclical changes happening to ovaries, hormones, accessory ducts during the reproductive phase of non-primates. That cyclical change is called oestrous cycle. Oestrous cycle. Now farmers and breeders they call it as heat period. They call heat period, but in your textbook they have written oestrous period or oestrous cycle. It happens in non-primate mammals. Now if you see this diagram here, we'll see the non-primates. This is non-primates. Now this one is feeling attracted to this one. Why? Because they are in their heat period now. Now the cycle which is there in their case, their cycle is like this. Estrous cycle 2 days, estrous 5 to 8 days, ovulation will happen, pregnancy, lactation will happen. Then next repeat will happen after maybe 26 days. So it is not continuously reproducing. There is a gap. So they breed only during some seasons. There are some breeding season. That time only these changes will happen to their ovaries and their hormones. That time only they will start producing their young ones. This happens in non-primates like cows, buffaloes, goats, cat, dog, tiger, lion. They are all non-primates. Now we are coming to the primates. So who are the primates? These are the primates. Do they all look same? We are also there here. Human beings are also there. So human beings and different types of apes, gorilla, monkey, we are all coming under one group, one order primata, that is primates. We also get cyclical changes. Cyclical changes takes place to our ovaries also and hormones also and accessory ducts also. But this cyclical changes in case of human females or in case of primate females happens every month. And so they are called continuous breeder. So primates are also called continuous breeders. Continuous breeders. They are reproductively active throughout their life. Throughout their life. Anytime they are reproductively active. So when these cyclical changes that happens to primates, so we can note that cyclical changes, same thing you have to repeat, cyclical changes that happens to the ovaries, hormones and accessory ducts of female primates. That cyclical changes is called menstrual cycle. It is called menstrual cycle. That repeats, cycle repeats every month and they are continuously reproducing animals. So cycle happens if you see this is how the cycle happens. Here there is a cycle here where the pituitary gland of the brain will secrete hormones which will cause ovary changes. Egg is produced here. Some changes will happen in the uterus also where the endometrium lining will cut off and they will flow out through as periods. Yes, this changes is called menstrual cycle. And the difference between estrous and menstrual is that estrous cycle will not happen every month. It happens during seasons only. It can be after 6 months or 5 months also in cattle. So that time only these cyclical changes happen, which is called as heat period. So they are those who are having estrous cycle, they are also called seasonal breeders. They are seasonal breeders. I have already written here. Seasonal breeders because they reproduce only during seasons. Whereas in case of primates, we reproduce continuously. We are reproductively active throughout the life. So we are called as continuous breeders. Good. Hydra? Yes. Very good. Then amoeba if it is during unfavorable situation? Yes. Good. Encystation. Penicillium? Yes. Very good. Very good. Penicillium conidia. Now the last one is sponge. Sponge reproduced by? Yes, gemmules. Sponge reproduced by gemmules.